5:30 on Tuesday, January 31st. This is the regular scheduled Board of Public Works meeting, and I will turn it over to Kyla Cox-Deckard, Board President, to start the meeting.
Thank you. I call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works this Tuesday, January 31st of 2023. First up, we have messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board? No. All right. Next is petitions and remonstrances. This is the opportunity for anyone who would like to make a public comment about something that is not on the agenda this evening. If you're on Zoom joining us, you can use the raised hand function or the chat function to let us know you'd like to make a comment. If you're in person, you can step to the microphone. Do we have any public comment about something not on the agenda?
I see none on Zoom.
All right, seeing none. Next, we have the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have the approval of minutes for January 17th of 2023. We have the 2023 4th Street Arts Festival, the second year extension of Park Mobile Agreement, and approval of payroll. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none. Do we have any public comment on anything within the consent agenda? Again, if on Zoom, you can use the raised hand or chat function to let us know.
No comments on Zoom.
Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve tonight's consent agenda for the meeting January 31, 2023.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is new business. First, under new business is request from Duke Energy for street, lane, and sidewalk closures, and this is February 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023.
Good evening. Paul Kerber with engineering. Duke Energy is moving forward with construction of Phase 3 of the reliability project in Bloomington. Overall, the project is to install new transmission lines to connect the substation up at North Rogers Street and 11th to the substation on South Rogers near Switchyard. Crews will be upgrading sections of distribution lines also along this route, and the work is planned for February 1st through June 30th, 2023. This will include lane closures and a few full street closures as they work through the project. Duke has been doing a lot of outreach ahead of this project, and then we've also had several meetings with representatives from Duke to make sure this project goes smoothly. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
I just want to reiterate something that came up yesterday, which is since the path of this goes by Fairview School, that you're in touch with MCCSE. Thank you.
Yes.
And it looks like the full street closures affect Morton Street and Madison Street. The others are temporary, so mostly flagging closures. Is that what
Yes,
we're
that's right.
expecting?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it will only be during the day, open up at night.
All right. On Morton and Madison Streets, are there any sidewalk issues there, or is it primarily the road?
It will primarily be the road, and then we've also worked with Tim Street from Parks and Rec on the B line along Morton down there, and the B line will remain open. And then they're trying not to close any sidewalks unless there's an overhead risk, and then they'll have crews on site to help with that.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, any public comments on this item? Again, on Zoom, you can use raised hand or chat function to let us know. In person, we've got the microphone at the front. Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the request from Duke Energy for street, lane, and sidewalk closures from February 1, 2023 to June 30, 2023.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next up is request from the Standard to extend lane closure on East 14th Street.
This is Paul Kerber with Engineering again. The Standard is continuing their work on the redevelopment project on East 14th Street from Washington to Dunn. They have a current lane closure of the eastbound lane that was approved on August 16th, 2022. They're asking for a 1-month extension. This would be just through February 28th. And then they currently have construction fencing and a barrier, and then they have the on-street parking for the westbound traffic currently. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
Has there been, I know that there was an informational meeting for area property owners. Are they made aware of this extension as well?
Yes, they have. And here's Eric with the Standard. So,
And if you can just introduce yourself.
All right, I'm Eric Schulte. I'm the project manager, Landmark Construction. Yes, we sent out a letter middle of last week, I think it was, notifying the residents. So I received like one phone call and we addressed the issue. So, yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Any public comments on this item? Hello.
Hi, my name's Greg Alexander. I was just there yesterday, and there's a crosswalk, a temporary crosswalk on Dunn, just on the north side of 14th Street, because the sidewalk on Dunn is closed. And it's pretty well faded. I think it was supposed to be thermoplastic, but they use paint. I don't care which they use, but paint needs to be maintained. I wish that when there was like an extension or a update to an MOT, that there would be the ability to say that they've been in compliance to now, which I feel like is lacking. Anecdotally, I have been there and seen pedestrians, and they are not able to get cars to yield to them. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that brings up a good question. Is it possible to have that remarked for this upcoming month?
So Eric Schulte again with Landmark Construction. Yes, Paul brought it to my attention this morning, and thanks for bringing it up. It's addressed. It was painted this afternoon. So,
Okay.
And then once we do construction, we have to repave that intersection. So then we'll do a permanent actual crosswalk. Whatever the term you use there, but yeah. So by May or June, you'll have a permanent crosswalk. So. Yeah,
Okay.
So it was addressed already.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Other public comments. If on Zoom, you can use chat or raised hand function.
I have, just a moment, I have a comment from Susan.
Okay.
Susan, if you could unmute.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, and I did call Landmark, and I believe they clarified for me, it's just an extension of time. It's not extending the area, and we're okay with the extension of time, but not enlarging the area.
Thanks for your question.
Yes, that is correct. Just an extension of time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other public comments on Zoom or in person?
I see no other comments.
All right, seeing none. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the request from the Standard to extend the lane closure on East 14th Street.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is a request from Fox Construction for lane closures along 2nd and West Patterson.
Jason Kerr with Engineering. Coming in front of me for Fox Construction. Mr. Fox could not be here this evening, unfortunately. They're general contractors for 2nd and Patterson job site for rocket fuels that's going in there. and they're requesting some closures for some sidewalk work and some, I could say, street curbing as well along 2nd Street there. I think he's requesting 30 days. Sidewalks are less than a week of a closure, intermittent at the ends of it and at the corner of 2nd and Patterson. Trying to think, and I believe that's really it. If there's any further questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? So yesterday during the work session, I asked a couple times because I was still having a hard time understanding the sidewalk. There is a multi-use path on the other side of 2nd Street. I believe that's the other side from the project. The project is
It
happening
is.
in the lot that has been,
Yeah, projects on the west and the east side of Patterson's what I believe you're thinking of.
okay, so on the east side of the street, there is a multi-use path, and that will be open.
That'll be open, yes.
It's just you had mentioned it was like kind of crumbling. I mean, the sidewalk on the other side is
not
not.
on that aspect, more that it's more of a shoulder almost. It's
Right, it's not a very big
it's-
sidewalk.
To us, it's not very safe for pedestrian, so we couldn't deter people over to that section.
Okay,
And if you wanted to deter anybody else, it'd probably be another mile walk before they would be able to get to, they'd almost have to go down, what is that, Allen, I'm thinking the right street, Allen there, up Fairview to Walker and then back around. So they didn't want to go that route.
yeah, but they'll be able to use the
They should.
multi-use path and that.
They can if they decide to, yes, it will be open for
Okay.
them to use. Yes.
Okay. And there'll be signage just indicating that sidewalk is closed to let anybody know if people are traveling, and, sorry, I had the
No,
map
you're
on the
fine.
phone.
I know it's interesting because it's a corner type of
It is, and it's a
project.
little hard for me to describe here, but if someone were traveling along that western side, which I don't know, there is a sidewalk that is.
There
you
is an
know,
actual sidewalk along the west side of Patterson, yes.
Will there just be a notice to those people who might be traveling to, I believe it's to the south, if I'm not mistaken, that they may want to cross to that multi-use path before they get to that?
We can put up, or we could probably have them put up some type of a sidewalk detour sign if they can. A lot of the sidewalk should be built inside and then the old sidewalk at the out, so they'll have the main sidewalk usage in place. But when they do those pertinent connections, I guess is the right terminology, we could have them, gear them to put up detour signs.
Yeah,
if you'd
that would
like.
be great, just to have a little warning, for people to make their way to the
Right, I'll add that
The
and talk to
larger-
Mr. Fox about that.
larger path there.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
Not a problem.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
Hi, Greg Alexander again. I just wanted to emphasize how difficult it is to cross 2nd Street there. So yeah, there is a pretty good sidewalk on the other side of the street, but I just want to emphasize that asking pedestrians to cross that, especially if there's not any particular assistance for that crossing, is not ideal. Thanks.
Thanks. Any other public comments on Zoom, or if on Zoom, raised hand or chat function works?
No comment on Zoom.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the request from Fox Construction for lane closures along 2nd and West Patterson.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is request from AEG for lane and sidewalk closures.
Jason Kerr again from engineering. Here for AEG requesting lane and sidewalk closures. Again, this is part of the citywide fiber project that they are installing. This is involving Queensway area, South Maxwell Street area, and South High Street area.
Any questions from the board on this? Any public comments on this item?
No comments on Zoom.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the request from AEG for lane and sidewalk closures.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is staff reports and other business, and under staff reports and other business, we have the rejection of bids for the Hopewell Phase 1 infrastructure project.
Good evening, Matt Smellers with the Engineering Department. On January 9th of this year, staff opened bids for the Hopewell Phase 1 East infrastructure project. We received one bid from Milestone Contractors with a base bid of $13,568,269. That was the only bid that we received. This bid was significantly higher than the engineer's estimate for the project. As such, we'd ask the board to reject the bid for the project. If the bid is rejected, staff would solicit bids again later this spring for the project.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve rejection of the bid for Hopewell Phase 1 infrastructure project.
All right. Any public comments on this item?
Good evening, Dave Askins with the B Square Bulletin. I just had a couple of questions about this item. At the work session yesterday, I reached the understanding that the idea was not just to put the bid package out again and hope for a better outcome, but that the idea was, I guess, certain elements would be removed. And that was a little, I don't know, puzzling to me, given that all of the talk about this project from the administration, from the city council, everyone has been along the lines of, this is a 100-year decision, that this is going to shape the face of that part of town for the next 100 years. And it was a little puzzling to me to hear the idea that, well, we'll, I guess, just do without some of the basic infrastructure. And I'm sure it's not the case that we're deciding to just forego certain sort of essential elements, but that was sort of the way it landed with me. And so I was hoping to get a little bit more detail about, say, where specifically the engineer's estimates diverged from the bid, because, I don't think our engineers just sort of said, about 10 million. I think that sounds about right. They are really specific. And so it might be possible to say, well, here's exactly where the items differed. So I was just hoping for a little more detail about that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Do we have any information from engineering at this point about some of those modifications, or if we're looking to, city resources to do some of the work?
First part of the question, as far as what may be removed, staff is still looking at those options. No essential elements would be removed. They'd just be modified potentially to try to save some money on certain areas. But all those items are still being looked at. No decisions have been made. And then as far as the differences between the engineer's estimate and the bid, there were numerous items that were different. A lot of them had to do with some of the specialty items like benches and the pavilions, water feature, not necessarily the streets or sidewalks per se.
All right. Thanks. Any other questions on this item? All right. Is there, let's see, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor on the rejection of bids for the Hopewell Phase 1 infrastructure project? Say aye. 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 Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is approval of claims. Any questions on claims? Any public comments on claims?
No comments on Zoom.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve claims this evening in the amount of $3,058,828.05.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. And if there is no other business this evening, I will call for adjournment.
Thank you.